Penguin Random House Audio presents The Boys in the Light, an extraordinary World War II story of survival, faith, and brotherhood by Nina Willner. Read for you by Mark Bramhall and the author. For Augusta and Siegfried, a person is only forgotten when his or her name is forgotten. The Talmud. Preface. December 2016, Waltham, Massachusetts. In a tiny Catholic church, a large Jewish family comes in from out of town and files into a modest funeral service that will honor a local man, an Italian-American, a hometown fixture who once ran the Monarch Diner on Main Street. As neighbors, friends, old customers, and the parish community crowd into the chapel, the seemingly out-of-place family fills up the entire second pew, reserved for the closest relatives. While everyone else has come to honor the life of a man they knew as Sammy, the Jewish family called him Uncle Pepsi. But he wasn't really their uncle, and his name wasn't really Pepsi. Winter, 1938. Mönchengladbach, Germany. Together they hurried over the cobblestones, leading their boy firmly by the hand as bright red, white, and black Nazi flags snapped in the wind. At the train station, his mother bent down, pulled his coat collar up against the chill. One last time she checked to make sure the note pinned to the inside of his coat was securely fastened. It was, in essence, a plea asking a stranger in another country to find him, take him in, and give him refuge. These were dangerous times, and this was a desperate act of love. "Don't be afraid," his mother said as she brushed his cheek with the back of her hand. "Be a good boy," his father said. "We will find you." 6 years later, somewhere in the forest, Saxony-Anhalt, Germany. Second by second, the escape team shifted glances at one another to get a pulse on what others were thinking. Just then, a lone British fighter was spotted in the sky, and the guards ordered their prisoners off the road so they could not be seen from the air. It was exactly the distraction they had been waiting for. Eyes locked, and their leader yelled, "Go!" They took off, scattering in different directions, and then all hell broke loose. An explosion of machine gun fire ripped through the ranks and raked their path. The attack dogs were released. Through a hail of bullets, 2 teens made a run for the water, sprinting down the grassy bank, while others in their group were shot down in the melee. Desperation running through their veins, they ran so fast they tore up the light and flung themselves into the river. A few days later, a bow gunner peered through his periscope and shouted at the driver to stop. In the first morning rays of sunlight streaming through the trees, they jolted to a halt. The tank commander called over the radio, "Lieutenant, you better get up here. There's something you're going to want to see." Part 1. Chapter 1. American Innocence. The 1930s. It always starts with innocence. 8-year-old Elmer Hovland stood steadfast on the dusty plains beneath the big open skies of Kenneth, Minnesota, wheat-blonde hair waving in the wind, his clear blue eyes taking on the color of the sky. His parents, Niels and Mary, were devout Lutheran immigrants from Uppland, Norway, who in the late 1890s, along with 1 million other Norwegians, left poverty and hunger in their homeland for a pioneering life on the Great Plains of Minnesota. They lived at first in a sod house, then eventually settled into a simple log home they built themselves, a Spartan dwelling with no electricity or modern conveniences, with an ice box to keep food cold, and a wood-burning cast-iron cook-stove which helped heat the home. They drew their water from a well and had an outhouse in the backyard. It was the definition of an austere life. Moving to a new country was difficult enough, but the Great Depression brought hard times and distress, especially in the farming sector. Despite the hardships, the Hovlands settled into their new life on Dakota tribal land, platted only at the turn of the century, with towns 7 miles apart, because that's as far as you could go in one day in a horse and buggy. They set up a farm just outside Kenneth, population 118, a tranquil town 1 square mile in size, with one crossroad, and became a part of the patchwork fabric of Scandinavian immigrant families drawn by the timber, mining, and farming industries rooted in Minnesota's barren, windswept plains, river valleys, and cold climate. In many ways it was not unlike the land they had left behind. The Hovlands and those like them lived in relative isolation, but there was new opportunity for growth and prosperity in this land of rolling hills and fertile black soil born of flat lake plains. The family grew corn, wheat, and barley, and raised dairy cows and chickens, laboring on a land that carried its story in the winds of its dusty promise. Unable to cope with the changes and homesickness, many went back to the land of the midnight sun, but the Hovlands stayed on and built a life. By 1930, they were living an uncomplicated existence, grounded in hard work, their days marked by sobriety and an abstemious reverence for the pure and simple. Guided by their deep Lutheran faith, a pious family who believed in the power of prayer, the Hovlands bowed their heads at every meal, prayed over their crops, knelt bedside at night, and woke up every morning asking for God's blessings on every new day. Faith helped them weather every challenge they encountered, from the heavy black clouds of the Depression years to droughts that marred the land for a time. The family was thrifty and frugal. They made their own or did without. Niels didn't talk much, believing that the hardest truths could be spoken with the fewest words, and he instilled in his children an upstanding propriety rooted in the rectitude of his Norse ancestral lineage. He taught them that an honest day's work was a virtue, that a man had to be competent and skilled, and that he had to have a backbone to get a job done right. Niels taught Elmer at an early age how to wield tools and build things. At 12 years old, Elmer surprised his mother with the family's first clock, which he had carved out of red pine, working over many months to master the inner workings of the intricate mechanical parts, the gear train and time hands, trying to get it to work. His mother praised his ingenuity and placed his creation up on the mantel of their log cabin, where it became the centerpiece of an otherwise unadorned home. For a family who had only ever known the time by the positioning of the sun in the sky, Elmer's clock was a luxury. Above all else, Niels and Mary emphasized sound moral character, that one should lead with the virtues of kus, warmth and compassion, and janteloven, the self-deprecating concept that family and community, the group, was always more important than one individual standing alone, that each member was a thread woven into the tapestry of a greater good. While Niels still read the Norwegian news and the family still embraced their native customs, singing old Norse songs, speaking Norwegian around the dinner table, ice fishing in the winter, and celebrating around midsummer bonfires, and Mary and the girls griddled up lefse during the holidays, the Hovlands embraced life in the United States and acclimated well to their new home. They even gave their children American names, making sure Elmer Leroy and his siblings learned the words to the national anthem. Though hard work, dust storms, and privation were harsh realities, it didn't occur to Elmer that life was difficult. A happy, humble, seemingly ordinary boy, he faced his days.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?